but ok nyalre jowar.
do a memorandum and submit to Parliament.
Sasa to discuss it Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, welcome everyone. We are trying to populate members. They are getting accepted to the meeting. So let's give a few, then we start in the next 2 minutes. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Engineer Shama Kiteme. I'm an IK Council member. I want to welcome us to the webinar this afternoon. The webinar will be on the online project approval portal at NCA. And we have the Executive Director, NCA Engineer Maurice Akesh, speaking to us. Just formalities of the webinar. We are already over 150, and I expect that we are going to continue increasing in number as the host continues to admit more people. We request everyone to be muted, please. We also encourage everyone who has a question to post a question on the chat right away, so that then the moderator can be able to pick your question and share it out to the speaker. As we begin, I want to request one of us to make an opening prayer. I request a volunteer, please. Can I request Engineer Kidongo? I've seen Engineer Stephen Kidongo. Please pray for us. Maybe the host can unmute Engineer Kidongo.
He's not on audio.
Oh, he's not on audio. Sorry. Okay, then let me make a prayer so that we don't delay. Let's pray, everyone. Our Father and our God, in Jesus' name, we want to thank you that you have given us the opportunity to gather this afternoon and have a conversation on matters affecting the construction industry. Now we want to invite you so that you are present with us in this meeting, and so that the conversations that we have from the presentations of the presenters all through so that they are useful and they will advance the industry, and they are good for our country and the welfare of all the people. So we pray that you're going to guide us from the beginning up to the end. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you, everyone. In the interest of time, I had already introduced my name. I said I'm Engineer Shama Kiteme and I'm a council member. This webinar is part of the series that IEK has been organizing to engage our members and develop to have conversation on issues affecting our industry. And this webinar is organized by Welfare Committee and the leadership of Engineer Karen Oyola, our Honorary Treasurer. And I already advise that members who are in this webinar can post their questions on chat so that then the moderator can be able to see the questions and raise them up with the speaker. So please try and post the questions as we continue. In the interest of time, I want to invite Engineer Eric Ohaga to make the welcome remarks and then invite the president. Welcome, Engineer Eric Ohaga. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Shama. And I want to take this chance, first of all, on behalf of the council, to welcome all of our members today in this webinar. Feel free to discuss issues that affect our profession. I know that we are going to discuss on issues to do with online application at NCA, but we are also going to delve into issues
Sorry, Eric, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you so much for that. And I want to take this chance and also join Engineer Shama in welcoming our members to this webinar today as we discuss the online application by NCA. But I think the discussion will also be able to delve on issues that affect our members on day-to-day running our business. We know many engineers deal with the design aspects, but we're also concerned that we have to follow up the design, whether they are always being constructed as design. So the missing link between as design and of course as constructed should be able to come out very clearly as we make this discussion. As IK, we endeavor to always continue to engage our members. After every week or after 2 weeks, it's good to meet and share experiences in such kind of forum. And therefore, we are looking forward to a very candid discussion from our very able panelists as we move forward with this discussion on online application by NCA. Therefore, without very much ado, it's my honor now to take this chance to welcome our President, Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga, to address the fraternity. Thank you and welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Shama. And thank you very much, all of us who have made time to be here today. I'm happy we are keeping up with our continuous professional development. I can see Mheshimiwa Karue Muriuki is joining us today. Karibu, Mheshimiwa. I hope you will be able to give us some information on what is happening today with our national government. We have woken up to see the merger of 3 parastatals with a 4th one, and we are all lost to what's happening. Sorry, Mheshimiwa, I'm just telling you that you have heard me, that we've woken up today to the presidential address merging 4 parastatals, and the 3 of them in our sector. And we are a bit lost, what is the intention and the best way forward, and how will this function? But karibu sana. Thank you very much, members, for attending. I don't know whether the Mheshimiwa will be able to organize another webinar like this one, so that you explain to us, because the time we have might not give you sufficient time. Members, we're happy to have you and welcome Engineer Maurice Akech. I know you are one of us, but we are very happy that we are hosting you today to discuss with you a very important topic that has cut across basically the welfare of our members. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say a good afternoon to all of you and welcome. If it wasn't because of these hard times, we would be probably meeting over a dinner. But because of the challenges, and we are engineers, we have to be alive to the task and continue operating. Many of the council members are in the house. I can see, of course, Engineer Eric Ohaga, the Honsek, Engineer Margaret Ogai, the Treasurer, Engineer Karen Oyola, Karibu. I can also see the Chairman of ASEC, he's joined us, Karibu Sana, and all of us that are in the room. We really appreciate you and we value. I am pleased to invite you to this yet another session where we are going to have a discussion and hopefully get to know and have an understanding at what is happening when one undertakes to submit a project on the NCA portal. I know that as engineers, we normally don't submit, but our clients and contractors do this submission. But of late, we faced a challenge. Sometimes you get a message that you have been nominated for a project, and sometimes you don't know that project, so you sometimes decline. But you never get any feedback what happens, whether your message of declining has been received and the steps that have been taken. So on behalf of IK and other professional organizations that have rallied their members to attend this webinar, because I know that we had allowed other professionals to join us, I want to take this opportunity to thank National Construction Authority for the role that they are playing to bring sanity to the construction sector, where many of our members practice and earn a living. Actions by the National Construction Authority have a direct bearing to our members. That's why we are having this discussion today. We have received numerous complaints from our members concerning the inability to be allowed to be indicated as project consultants on the NCA online project submission portal. We have urged our members to cooperate with the National Construction Authority and provide the necessary clarifications to National Construction Authority to enable a speedy resolution of the problem, as we believed that the wrongdoing must have been from quacks who have, with the assistance of the National Construction Authority rogue employees, used our members' certificates to register the project and interfered with the feedback process that is supposed to reach our members. NCA acknowledged that they were cleaning out their portal and assured us that the problem was going to be sorted out in the shortest time possible. We have today invited the Chief Executive Officer, Engineer Maurice Akech, and I'm happy to say that Engineer Maurice Akech is our member. He's a professional engineer practicing in Kenya in his own right. And we'd like him to take us through the process and hopefully confirm to us that the cleaning that they undertook to do is nearing completion. And the inconvenience caused to our members and other professionals will not be repeated. Also, the National Construction Authority, we went through a process last year, which is going to come up with the Business Laws Amendment Act 2020. We're supposed to review the NCA Act to empower the National Construction Authority to, among other things, enforce the building code. We urge NCA and will comment that this mandate should be extended to not only the national government, but also to the county governments. We urge NCA to ensure that all county governments have a county engineer's office. And this office should be headed by a professional, preferably a professional engineer, and staffed with all professionals in the construction industry. This office should be responsible for provision of enforcement of all building laws to stop instances of collapsing buildings and ensure that developers get value for money. The professionals in this office should take professional responsibility for the approvals that they sign off and have sufficient staff to follow up construction to ensure that it is done in accordance with the approved drawings. Setting up of technical approval committees, which is what is popular, seems to be not the correct thing to do, because there is normally no professional responsibility and there is no professional indemnity that is provided to the national and county governments. So this process should be discouraged. The professional who is approving a drawing and who is leading an enforcement team should take professional responsibility for the work that they are doing. So Engineer Ketch, I'd now like to invite you and urge you that as you complete the cleaning up of the portal, you also provide to our members a possibility that they are able to check the projects that have been submitted and they have been listed as the supervisors. Because this challenge that we experienced came up from the fact that we as professionals are not able to see the projects under that have been submitted for us as us supervising them. This has been a big challenge because you probably have not been able to update each member, each architect, each engineer, and each quantity surveyor who probably with a list of projects that they are under their charge. And this has been the primary cause of the challenge that you faced. So we urge you, and I know that in this webinar, we have representatives of the Engineers Board of Kenya, the chairman and the registrar and the legal officer in attendance. You can work with them, you can collaborate with them so that the information they have on our members can also be used to reach them. I don't know whether it is possible to link your submission portal with EBK portal so that when someone is listed as a supervisor of a project, then that is also forwarded to the Engineers Board of Kenya. And you know that under the professional development units, our members also get professional development units for the work that they do. So this will also make it easier for our members to benefit in addition to the enhanced security feature that the process will take. So fellow engineers, fellow professionals, I now welcome you and I wish you a very fruitful session this afternoon. May God bless you and may God bless Kenya. I now take this chance to invite the chairman of the Engineers Board of Kenya. He had said he probably had another appointment, but I think the representative of the board, Engineer Julia Odeo, the Vice Chair of Engineers Board of Kenya, will make the remarks, the EBK remarks. Karibu, Julia.
Thank you very much, President Matalanga. Thank you very much to the NCA team and also so much to the IEK team for coming up with such a good forum for us to engage and discuss issues that are relevant and important to the industry. I'd like to send apologies from our chairman, the board chairman, Erastus Mwengera, who will not be attending this seminar, but has a keynote address that he'd like me to make on his behalf. So the board and the authority were born out of the reforms in the construction industry, and the board was established under the Engineers Act of 2011, which basically repealed the Engineers Act of 1969, and is responsible for, one, the registration of engineers and engineering firms, regulation of professional engineering services, setting out of standards, development and general practice of engineering, while the authority, that is the National Construction Authority, was established under the NCA Act, National Construction Authority Act of 2011, and is responsible for overseeing the construction industry and coordinating its development. The mandates are therefore very closely related, and it behoves that both entities, that is EBK and NCA, work together for the good of the construction industry, where engineers are a main and major stakeholder. Indeed, the establishing statutes provide for collaborations for growth and of the profession and also for the industry at large. as we sit today to be taken through the portal that has been developed by NCA, EBK would like to say that the use of technology is one that is collaborative tool that both we, EBK, and NCA need to adopt and effectively deploy for effective service delivery. The NCA online portal is already in use, and the EBK has developed a complementary enterprise resource planning system. And currently the board has received resources towards integration of the ERP system with relevant agencies, key among them being NCA, and to have a fully effective registration and monitoring system. It is our hope that at some point, the ERP system can also be rolled out to also engage and interact and integrate with the county offices. However, technology is not an end to itself, but a tool to make processes more efficient and reliable. And technology relies on the users to achieve the set objectives. Therefore, it goes without saying that the capacity and integrity of the users is paramount for technology to be successful. For engineers, embracing technology should be an easy concept. Beyond that, however, there's need to ensure we adopt the technology in an ethical manner. The technology does not absolve any engineer from their professional responsibilities, as has been mentioned by the president of IEK, and rather it provides for an affirming of our professional inputs into provision of engineering services. We'd also like to raise concern that the board has received a communication from NCA that a number of our engineers have been temporarily suspended from submitting projects under the NCA portal. This was because they were deemed to have been handling multiple projects simultaneously in a particular period of time. The said engineers have been requested to give more information on the alleged complaint from NCA, and some have given the information while others are waiting for their submissions. A report of the same has been prepared and will be tabulated before the board for determination. The board is committed to solving this problem and is engaging NCA in having a lasting solution. Some of the issues raised do indeed raise fundamental questions with regard to how engineers view the application of the code of conduct and ethics in their day-to-day activities. Currently, we have in the board an ad hoc committee that is looking into complaints from NCA on engineers involved in collapsed buildings. The board would like to urge that engineers go back to the basics of professional practice and use the resources available by the board, including the code of ethics and conducts and the manual as guidelines for good practice. Again, we cannot emphasize that the board has resolved to take a more proactive approach in aiding engineers to achieve their career aspirations. Engagements are ongoing with agencies on matters pertaining to the welfare of engineers, such as terms of service and terms of engagement of professional services as regards to the scale of fees. The place of engineers in provision of professional services is also something that has really been considered and is still under great review. However, the board's efforts may not achieve much if engineers collectively do not uphold professionalism and portray the right image to the public. Such tools as the engineer's identification card are coming on board, the first batch of which is being approved today, and soon to be issued is the engineer's stamp, which should help engineers guard against unethical practices, as well as be more accountable for their actions. With those few remarks, on behalf of the chairman and the board, wish to open up and invite the webinar to more discussions as regards to our role and mandate as a board and our support to NCA. And we're looking forward to a positive engagement during this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Julia Ondeo, the Vice Chairman of Engineers Board of Kenya, for those remarks. I'm informed we have quantity surveyors, architects, and other players in the built environment in the webinar. And it's a joy to welcome you. Now, I want to remind everyone that we are posting the questions that we are having on chat so that then the moderators can see them and be able to pick them and present them to the panelists. Now, it's my joy to invite our speaker today. Engineer Maurice Akech is currently the Executive Director of National Construction Authority. He was previously the General Manager for Research, Training, and Capacity Building at NCA. where he was involved in spearheading and providing leadership in the construction industry on research, training activities, as well as consultancy and advisory services that promote its development, coordination, and growth. Engineer Maurice Akech is being also the secretary to the NCA board. Is registered with Engineers Board of Kenya as a professional engineer. He's a civil engineer, and is a corporate member of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Engineer Akech holds a master's degree in construction engineering management and a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, both from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Engineer Akech has experience spanning over 20 years in design, construction, supervision, and management, as well as leadership in the construction industry. He has worked on mega civil engineering, infrastructure, and telecommunication projects in various capacities with international and local companies in Kenya. Some of the companies he has worked for prior to joining NCA include Safaricom Limited, GIB Africa, Howard Humphreys Consulting Engineers. I know Engineer Akech to be passionate and carries out his work with a lot of energy. And so I want to invite everyone this afternoon to listen to Engineer Akech as he makes his presentation in the next minutes. Welcome, Engineer Akech. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Engineer Kiteme, for that very wonderful introduction. Sometimes when you listen to someone introducing yourself, you really wonder whether you are the one. But again, because you cannot say those things about yourselves. And also thank you, Ike, through the president, Engineer Matalanga, for putting this together. I also want to thank EBK for coming on board as a respective regulator for the construction industry. And also thank the participants from other professional realms, like I think we have architects on board, and we also have quantity surveyors on board. So indeed, we are complete in terms of a coordinated approach in construction. And for your information, even before I go into my presentation, you will realize that in any project to be done successfully, or for any project to be successfully done, you need all of us. And we need to move in a coordinated approach. And no wonder we always have what we call those project meetings, and they are for nothing else but purposely to coordinate so that the project can be done in a smooth and professional manner. And that's why today, I really want to appreciate that this meeting is going to help us as the body, and body is charged with the responsibility of overseeing the construction industry and regulating it to chart the way forward. But I know this particular meeting was also informed by certain actions that have been taken in the recent past in a manner that maybe some professional colleagues felt that the businesses were being curtailed or bumps being put on the road to the success of their businesses and so on and so forth. So in today's presentation, at the end of it, I want to believe that we'll have made good clarifications and a detailed presentation in a manner that we will be all on the same page. In case there are any gaps at the end of the presentation, I would ask that the questions will be raised so that we can respond accordingly. So allow me to go to the presentation. We prepared a brief presentation. As technical people, which I believe all of us are here on board, we are used to listening to presentations, and some of them will be made technical. And in that regard, I believe you will not be switching off in terms of trying to pray on the screen. The good thing, this approach of presentation, it's not easy to see who is praying for you or who is sleeping while presentation is going on, because it is something that is virtual. So we have that virtual kind of engagement. So I will just take us through a very brief presentation that we are prepared. I don't know if I can share the screen. are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you very much. So basically, I'll take us through that presentation, which I think in another 20 or 30 minutes, I'll be done. Then from there, we can invite questions to the moderator so that we can be able to respond. The presentation prepared is in regard to today's theme of this meeting, which is understanding the NCA online project registration portal. And I also have part of my team from NCA on board, which I think I did not acknowledge. I have members from management, and I think on board could also be board members, board of directors of National Construction Authority. So all of you are welcome for this presentation. Now, I only have 6 contents to talk about. Basically, it will not be good to assume that we all know what NCA is there to do. So I'll briefly say what the role of NCA is, and it will be specific to today's topic. Then I'll briefly touch on the code of conduct for the construction industry. Then I'll go to what we are here for today, which is the overview of the online project registration system, the one we have dubbed OPRS registration process, where as engineers and all other professionals here on board engage with us or interact with our system for the project registration, which will be a number 4 item for the presentation. Then we'll take you through what we have proposed for upgrade to improve on interactability of that particular system, and then cross-cutting issues. Before I go in, I want to appreciate that EBK was also already developed an enterprise resource platform, which they are now planning to integrate. And I think it's a very good opportunity for us to have a conversation, which we even started earlier in terms of collaboration in the construction industry, including other sister regulator, which is the Board of Registration of Quantity Surveyors, Board of Registration of Architects and Quality Surveyors, BORAQs. So in that regard, it means in the near future, we'll have what we call a single window system, which by a click of a button, we can be able to do all our things together. And that will improve quality of how we do things. It will enhance the processes and also efficiency of what we do. Then number 6 will be cross-cutting issues, which we've also will share with you a sample letter which we shared with the engineers that were debarred. I don't want to call them suspended because suspension is a very strong word. They were debarred from the NCA registration system for the reason that I will explain during my presentation. So NCA as the EBK chair vice chair had already clearly put in her remarks while she was sharing her remarks, Engineer Julia, is that we are created by an act of parliament. It was Act number 41 of 2011. I don't need to keep repeating that, but it was also operationalized by NCA regulations 3 years later in 2014. So we have the Act, which is NCA Act number 41 of 2011, and we have the regulations, which now operationalizes the Act, which help us to conduct our activities from time to time. Our overall mandate as an authority is to oversee the construction industry and connect its development. So that's why I'm so happy today that as the industry overseer, we are able to sit together in one space through this platform to discuss issues that affect us. And if we can embrace this kind of discussion and make it a routine kind of discussion, I think many of the issues affecting us can be made a thing of the past. Part 2 of that mandate, actually, to be exact, because I know engineers are used to referencing in terms of articles when you're managing contracts. If you look at Section 5 of the NCA Act, 5G, it talks of promotion and ensuring quality assurance in the construction industry. That is part of our mandate. And in addition to that, we have Regulation 17.1 of our NCA Regulations 2014, talking about requirement for registration of all projects in accordance to the Act. This is both public and private projects. And this is where our discussion will be revolving around in terms of how we have automated it within our system. Then number 4 is in order to realize this mandate, we also have, as NCA Act, Section 5M, giving NCA mandate to develop and publish the code of conduct in the construction industry. So that means that because of that, we've already developed a code of conduct. Today, we are in version 2. Version 1 was 2014, around 2019. And early this year, we published the edition 2 of the code of conduct for the construction industry. This code of conduct is what integrates all of us together as industry professionals. Under the code of conduct, just quickly to say what it is about. It is what embraces all of us as players. And this purpose is twofold. One is to guide and regulate the conduct of parties engaged in construction-related activities. And I want to invite all of us, if you visit our website, and even for the professionals in this particular forum who have previously been nominated for project registration, during project registration process, you'll realize that before you accept or reject as a project, as a party to the project that you have been nominated to, you're always required to actually open up that code of conduct and confirm that you've read it. Whether you've read it or not, that's another story. But I know you've been seeing it. The other one is to establish the standards against which this can be measured and monitored. So basically, it defines the role of each party. If you look at it cleanly, it encompasses the entire value chain of the construction industry, both from the manufacturer, his role, the supplier, the professional, you and me included in that regard of being a professional, the contractor, the developer, and even the construction worker. This particular document is very important to see how all of us are required and what constitutes a misconduct in that regard. So it also sets out the amounts of unacceptable conduct in the industry and provides enforceable recourse or tools which we can use in the event of breach. And it makes provision for mechanism for monitoring and evaluation as well. So with that said, today's meeting is about our online project registration system, which is a system we are using for project registration. This system was developed around 2016. Previously, when we began as NCA, everything we were doing was manual. And you and me, you'll agree, manually, it was a daunting task. But I'm happy to report to you that today we have a system that from where you sit, you can be nominated as a professional or as a project engineer or an architect or a quantity surveyor in that regard. And you accept from where you sit. What you need is just a device and internet. And of course, the fact that you're part of that project and you will accept it. And once you accept, of course, it becomes a responsibility that you are part of that project. So it is a very, the back end of it is what I'm going to show you, but you only deal with the front end, which is what's on the screen. So the front end normally requires that the person or party responsible for project registration, which is a requirement by law, is the project owner or the developer or the client, depending on which name we want to use, or the employer. So they are expected to go to our NCA online portal, which is in our website. Once you just type NCA, when you go to the main NCA portal, you'll find the project registration. And when you click on it, which I will show you a few pages shortly, you will be able to put in all the details. So it starts with filling of the application by the developer. And the next step is the nomination of the consultants. This is also by the developer. And let me clarify. Sometimes developers or project employers assign or nominate or delegate this particular function to the agents. And those agents could be you as an architect or as an engineer or quantity surveyor. And when you are nominating the consultants, you are expected to nominate consultants who are either the engineer for that project as guided, as provided by the project owner, nominate the architect, nominate the quantity surveyor. And as you do that, those particular names you're nominating must be existing in the database of the respective regulators of those professionals. That is key. So if today you wanted to masquerade as one and you are not, I can assure you, you will not be able to get in. And that's why sometimes you face challenges when somebody is not able to get an email and they write to us, we refer them back to their regulator to confirm whether they are indeed duly registered, so that it's the regulator to communicate to us so that we can allow them in the system. Step 3 is the nomination of a contractor by either the agent or the developer. And in this case, that contractor must also be registered by National Construction Authority, so that whether it's the main contractor or subcontractor, both of them or all of them must be in our database. This is easy for us because we have the repository database for all the registered contractors, and from that end, it's easier to confirm. For the professionals, of course, we also get the list from the respective regulators so that we don't develop our own list. The step 4, basically, is attaching the necessary documents for a project registration of a building project, which is the majority of the projects register, because you can be sure in terms of project profiles, we have as many buildings as the developers we have in this country in terms of the real estate. So we want them to attach the county approval in terms of letter, which is OPPA 2 form. For those who are in this real estate space, you know that what that form is. They also need to attach architectural drawings approved by the county, structure for which that development is taking place. They also attach structural drawings approved by the county, but of course developed by the professionals or prepared by the professionals relevant for those particular drawings. We need to have them attach a bill of quantity summary. That's why we need a quantity surveyor for the case where scoping requires a quantity surveyor. Also, we need a signed contract, because project registration happens at the point just after the award of the project. Everything else is done, but just before construction. So this should happen 30 days pre-commencement of construction works. Then the other thing we look for is other regulatory documents like NEMA, which is very key for environmental, Water Resources Authority for projects happening in riparian areas, or where projects are happening near flight paths or airports. We need the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority approval, or where they're affecting a nearby road or next to a nearby road, we will expect them to also get approval from the relevant road authorities where applicable. So these are very key documents, and we have our team which normally looks at it. The last stage is at the application is each consultant and the contractors nominated at stage 2 and 3 will receive mails based on the email addresses that they have given at the point of their registration with the relevant bodies or respective professional bodies. And that particular email asks you to accept whether you're part of that project. I know some of us sit in this platform have come across that mail before. And the moment you accept, we now move to the stage of carrying out the due diligence. Until all these nominated parties accept that they are part of that project, we will not proceed to evaluate. So in terms of what you will find in our website, this is a screenshot of what we'll expect you to get the moment you get into the NCA website. And as you can see, it gives you the requirements, number 1 to 8. I will not read through, but on the right-hand side is the project registration portal, which when you click, it will take you to the next page. And remember, at this stage, there's nothing you've added. You put anybody can access this as long as you're able to get into our website, whether you are in this part of the world or any part of the world, as long as you have internet and a device. The next page that comes before you, when you click on this, when you click here, you will get to this page, and this page will require you to now start entering necessary information, because this is maybe the first time you're interacting with us. We have no information about you. So you're expected to either enter your email address and a password, which will get you into the login. Don't worry, you may have not registered before, but the moment you get there, it will get you to the registration window. Or you can just go straight to register. Then when you do that, you get to the next page. When you get to the next page, you will be able to input all the necessary all the necessary information. This page is preloaded, but it is page for demonstration for purposes of what goes on during project station, and is very user-friendly. And what I'm taking you through now is basically what the developer or his or her agents would basically do on their end where they sit. So you as the engineer who is a party to the project, you will not get here, you will just get to the point of accepting, which page I'll show you at the end. So this one was for a project, particularly proposed residential development on plot number 1/450 Kilimani, just a demo, so that somebody does not say we have looked at their project in particular. And as you can see, it's also dated 2017. Now, this particular page has now what it requires to input on your project. Remember, we would want to the level of detail, or even what we call the geographical coordinates of where that particular project is taking place. I know for road engineers and water engineers, where a project is a long line, you'll ask us what coordinate do you put. We can reserve that question to the end. And specifically, this would be very ideal for a building where you would input all the necessary details. You'll put the proposed building name, location, LR number, drawings approval, all those things. And you need to be as accurate as possible. And you will put developer client details, location, and so on and so forth, and include the value of the project. By the time I finish my project presentation, you realize that the information we collect is adequate, and you, even as an industry stakeholder, to make you happy and comfortable that by click of a button at NCA you can find anything you need, even if you want to know who did which project in what particular period and how much was the cost of that project. That would be some sign of comfort, and also improves on part of quality assurance and responsibility as far as project delivery is concerned. The next stage will be the appointment. Okay, this is what I showed you earlier, but I'm just going to the screenshot details. With project consultants, so only, okay, in red there is written only contractor. It's supposed to read only consultants with valid professional registration number are allowed to be added as consultants for this project. So here, you will enter the architect, you will enter the engineer, and as you see, as you're entering them, if they are not in their respective regulators portal, they will not be able to be selected in this regard. That's the beauty of this thing. So already we have a coordinated approach, even from where we sit, only that it is not, what do you call it? It is not live, it's not live, it's not, the information we have here is preloaded. But we are looking at a scenario where we can have it seamless and connected at all times. Then the next stage will be for the contractor. This is the applicant choosing all this, and you have to enter the details of the contract and so on and so forth. One thing I didn't say, at the beginning when you just click register a project, you will get a unique number that will give you a project ID for that particular project to register. And that's the number you can be using to track all your projects. This is the number that after the approval will also be seen on the site signboards that we see across many construction projects in the country. The next stage will be documents that you need to attach. And here, you also attach all the documents that are listed there earlier. Key among them is the PPA 2 form, approved drawings, both structural and architectural for buildings, that is. And also NEMA license is key, except where there is not a requirement, but that also we need an exemption as proof of no requirement for NEMA and any other approval that's necessary. And it is because of that that we carry out due diligence to confirm that there is no any other requirement as far as documentation is concerned. The next stage is basically summary of what you put. So here you'll be able to view what you've been inputting on the previous page. And you can see down there, there's some item in red. You must open and review NCA code of conduct before accepting and submitting the application to start verifying the process. So even the developer, who is also linked at the hip with us using that code of conduct or construction industry, is supposed to confirm that they have opened and reviewed or read. But the question is whether they have done it, because you can just click and immediately submit. So that is now the question, that whether people normally really go through it or they just look at it. And the next step is what I wanted to show you, that as a consultant, for instance, for architects, you will receive a page like this on your mail, the mail that is with your regulator, whom we have linked us, who has linked us in terms of your details. So this particular information will come to the architect's mail, and down there you have either click here to confirm or click here to reject. So when you click to confirm, it means you accept, and the only thing you will see down there is to accept the code of conduct that you've opened and read it. Then you submit. Once you submit, we'll receive that feedback on our end. And also the next page will be the engineer. Engineer will also do the same. And once the engineer has done the same, there's also one for quantity surveyor and one for a contractor. I only put those two because today was the professionals forum. So after that, the next step is due diligence. And this is now in-house. Remember, all those who are doing were actually now the interaction with the external environment where the applicant is doing the application. And you, for the time being an external party, you've already accepted. Once that happens, now the task is assigned to an officer to go to verify the documents, which is the next stage, then carry out due diligence inspection, even confirming that actually the space exists for developing that kind of a project. And then if everything is in order, plus documentation, then the approval is granted. And the moment the approval is granted, but immediately within a split of a second, the developer or the agent who applied through the same application mode they did can be able to generate a compliance certificate to download. Currently, it goes through the mail, but we'll see what we have proposed in terms of the improvements down there, what we need to do to even enhance that process. What is important here, professional colleagues, is the fact that we don't just receive those documents and say accept. There's so much we do in the background to even accept. And to the extent that even if the applicant of that project, developer is, let's say, Engineer Ketch, but the drawings is indicating as the developer as Engineer Kamau, that is already an inconsistency. And that will call for a query and will send back the information so that we do not approve. So all that is what we check so that we ensure that all this is aligned. And that's part of quality assurance as part of as far as construction industry regulation is concerned. So what we propose to do to be able to upgrade the system in order to enhance interactability is we need to upgrade our system to enhance interactability so that consultants, you who is sitting in this forum, and every other consultant has the ability to track projects under their supervision or under their responsibility. This is very important. And this is informed by the fact that when we sent letters to you, which I will give as my closing remarks down there, I know there was a lot of hue and cry because maybe some of us accepted so many projects, but at the end of the day, maybe either we couldn't follow up or actually we may not have been aware even their status. So in this particular provision will help us to be able to interact with the system and even know which projects we have at any particular time, so that even if somebody was to use your details in a manner that is not proper, you will be able to tell and flag NCA as soon as possible. Then we also looking at faster ways of resolving issues like correcting wrong emails. Sometimes we have emails that are not going through and somebody writes directly to us, like I'd said earlier. So when you write to us directly, we may not be able to change that because that can be used as a loophole to register a project with someone who is not qualified, the professional. The other one is SMS notification, which we are working on. Currently, we only do the email, and sometimes the email can take too long. SMS is much prompt, faster, and the numbers, telephone numbers or mobile numbers are more unique identifiers. It's like they become part of our IDs, so it will be much faster and easier. And then the other one is the interactive platform for both consultants and clients. We will be able to provide, after upgrade, we'll be able to provide status reports or completion certificates and special enforcement notices. Like for instance, when you've accessed a project and during the course of our quality assurance inspections out there, we come across a project that's not compliant, then we suspend. Sometimes most of the times you don't get feedback on whether your project has been terminated or not, because the client may go mute on even informing you of the status of that particular project, whether it's been suspended by NCA and the issues surrounding it. And then lastly is on cross-cutting issues. Here is where I said I want to take just a few more minutes to present a case. So there is a letter we issued to various professionals. It was issued to 4 categories of parties. One were engineers, and because of engineers are here today. The other category were architects, and the other category were quantity surveyors, and even contractors received it. And what was the letter about? The letter was communicating a concern from National Construction Authority with regard to the multiple number of projects that are being carried by those specific parties we communicated to in a manner that was causing or would cause doubts in terms of whether they are able to run with those projects at any one go. For instance, we extracted from the system projects registered from 1st January 2019 to around 30th March 2020, just before Corona. So if you look at those projects, some individuals, specific professionals, had projects to the tune of even 600. Of course, if you have employed within your firm a team to tackle those projects within that period, it's okay. But also, it will not be possible if it is just one person to handle 600 projects in a span of 365 days in a year, including weekends and public holidays. And knowing that projects are not in one central location to handle those kind of projects. So this communication was intended, one, to confirm capacity of those various professionals with regard to the projects that they had been nominated in the system. And some of them they had accepted, some of them they are pending acceptance. And it's at that point that the Board of National Construction Authority made a decision, and because it was following a number of, you don't just wake up one day and make a decision. Having looked at this for the last 3 years or so, we've had a number of collapses in this country, mostly buildings, and without giving direct examples. Those collapses, if you look at one unique thing with them, that the professionals that are involved in those projects are almost similar across board. And of course, from every other time where the board carries out investigations, we normally submit the investigation reports to relevant regulatory bodies, whom we've already worked with very well and always have supported us. So this one should not look like a punishment and should not make you as a professional panic. All we are looking for is additional information to confirm that indeed, one, you are the one who is party to those projects. Two, you have adequate capacity. And of course, through the respective regulator, once that information comes through, the board again will sit down and look at the details, and necessary direction will be taken. So a case in point here is a scenario where we came across an engineer who had 50 projects, no name, so please don't feel offended. It's just a hypothetical example. This is between January 2019 to March 2020. And in that particular, under the name of that particular engineering professional or engineer, he had 50 projects total, 44 of which he had accepted within that period, and 6 were pending acceptance or rejection. So what this meant is that to be able to try and professionalize the industry and also keep with our mandate of ensuring, enforcing and ensuring quality of the industry, we had to take certain measures, which was communicating to those particular professionals who were affected with those letters being copied to their professional bodies, that's the regulator, and the professional associations like the AEK, I think, also received those communications, so that if they're able to confirm back that they have adequate capacity, then from there on, necessary action will be taken. So that's what informed the whole thing. And that makes the end of my presentation as far as today's seminar is concerned. So as I finalize, Bwana President and the convener, Bwana Shema, I think EBK addressed very important points in the opening remarks, and even President IEK. And I want to confirm that the solution to getting a safer, quality, and better construction environment is in collaboration amongst all of us. It starts with you, it starts with us, and collectively, we will get this industry to where it's required. Together, we will win. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer. That was commendable, incisive, and detailed within a very short time. You have highlighted a number of issues. Of course, you took us through the legal basis of NCA, the NCA Act number 41 of 2011, the NCA Regulations 2014, and the Code of Conduct for Construction Industry, and of course, the registration of projects. Quite important, you pointed out, is the improvements that are happening on that portal, some of which are to be able to update the professionals on what is happening actually on the projects. And for me, that is quite positive. I found it very positive. So that then, if an NCA inspector goes to a project and makes some notes or the findings or the status of that project, if that can be posted on the portal and every person involved in that project, the engineer, the architect, the developer, they get notes on the findings of the inspector, I think, Engineer Ketch, you will appreciate that, one, you have a way of knowing that, yes, your staff are really working on those projects, but also very importantly that the professional involved are aware of what is happening in those projects. So really that is commendable in my view. I want to invite Engineer Godfrey Marambe to take us through a session on Q&A. Engineer Marambe is a council member and-
We can't hear you, please, Engineer.
Sorry, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
You're
Yes,
clear.
you are audible, Engineer.
Yes, you're very clear.
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. So I want to invite Engineer Godfrey Marambe to take us through the session on question and answer. Take over, Engineer Marambe. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. I hope I'm audible. Thank you, Engineer Maurice Akech, for that wonderful and fantastic presentation. There are several questions that have been coming in fast and furious. So I will want to maybe I'll be raising them 3 questions maybe at a time, or I don't know how you want us to go about it, Engineer Maurice Akech, so that so far on my notes, I have more than 11 questions. I think we have about 30 minutes for us to tackle those questions. So we have about 11 questions, and I know there are more that will be coming in the chat. So I'll just list maybe 4 of them, then you can tackle them as I also raise the rest until we exhaust them or we stop where we will be able to do. So the first one that came in was Engineer Harrison Musembi was asking the question on how NCA is going to tackle the issue of registration of projects without the professional's knowledge, like the architect or the engineer. Sometimes people register projects without their knowledge. And then there's another one from Edmond Wakachunga. I think this one you kind of answered that. The integration of NCA with the EBK portal to make sure they are working in synchronized. And then there's another one from Abdifata Jama. He asked, the portal currently is open to the public. Can it be closed to professionals so that it is only professionals who can access the portal to register projects? His other question, he had two questions, was can we have all approvals for drawings and all those construction documents, let's say the ones that are needed by NEMA, WARMA, KURA, can they be done under one roof? I think, engineer, you can take those questions, then we proceed again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Godfrey. I think let me appreciate the questions, because that means the participants were actually very keen and attentive and listening. And allow me to start with the last one from Engineer Jama, which is two-pronged. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. This is asking whether we need to confine the registration portal to professionals only. And I want to assure Engineer Jama that professionals are there to guide employers and developers in undertaking projects in a professional manner. But developers themselves may not be professional, but they are the ones who are responsible when it comes to applying for this project. So any member of the public may be an employer or may be a developer. They may not be any of us as professionals. They may not be an architect, may not be an engineer, may not be a quantity surveyor, but they want to carry out the work of development, which they want to involve you or me as a professional. So in that regard, this system is open because the applicant could be any member of the public who has gathered resources and would wish to invest in this space where you're a professional, and that's why you are there to support them in terms of that development. And whether we can have all these approvals from these multiple agencies under one roof, that's a good question and has been something that is in the works. And as we move on, it is something that it will definitely come to pass. You heard from EBK that they already worked on something, and which is online. You've seen our presentation, which is online. We've seen various counties already having their own online regulatory systems. And then I think NEMA is also working on something that I don't want to speak on their behalf. But all I can assure you is that we are working on what we call Construction Industry Information System, CIS, which will be the integrator of all these things together, so that by a click of a button, we were able to seamlessly take all these approvals through. Still, they'll be under one roof. You will be sitting in one space, but all that integration is what will make them appear as if they are under one roof, because that's all you need to have them all integrated together. Edmond has asked about integration, which I've also clarified in the last response, and also in my presentation, I also shared. But Harrison has a question on how we must tackle, how NCA will tackle registration of projects without professional knowledge. This used to happen in the past, especially during the manual registration, because when it is manual, all I needed, if I wanted to be crooked, is a copy of your practicing license, and I would attach it as evidence of you being the professional in that project. But today, when I was presenting, you saw there is a requirement for you as the nominated professional in that project to accept. The only time now this can happen is whether somebody has actually put a wrong email address that instead of coming to you, goes to somebody else who masquerades as you and then accepts. But that's those are things that happen in terms of system leakages. But in our, from where we sit so far, I think there is a lot of improvement to that extent. So this should not worry you. So that when you have accepted, unless you are what do we call it? You are a dummy engineer, or you just masquerade as one. Then that is the only case this can happen. So right now we have a system. The system is secure, and only those who have been nominated, and we have their details provided by the respective regulators, are able to accept. And when we accept, we expect them to receive mails. And that's why I also expect regulators to be occasionally having a window in which professionals can update their contact details so that the information always goes to the right person from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. I will move on to the next questions. There's a question from Juma Adam, who is asking, how does NCA ensure specialized mechanical and electrical works are done by professionals? And he also asks, why don't we have site boards include mechanical and electrical? Engineer Linda, mute yourself. His other question was, how do we ensure site boards, NCH will ensure site boards have mechanical and electrical engineering contractors and professionals? I think that was a comment. Maybe you will answer on that. And then there's one from Engineer Joel Nadebu, also Clyde Omurai and Bashir Ali. I think they all had the same concerns on why don't we have, especially on your OPRS system under stage 2, why don't we have mechanical and electrical drawings being as a prerequisite for approval under that stage? Why do you only consider structural and architectural drawings? And then Joel Nadebu also asked, can you consider waiving fees for electrical contractors, since they get a lot of, they are also registered under, I think, Ministry of ICT and EPRA. So they are heavily, they need to pay for a lot of licenses. Can you consider that? And then the last one is from Dickens, is also asking, how is NCA ensuring local content in the projects that they're regulating? Thank you, Engineer, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Engineer. Juma, it was a very good question, that why don't we include specialized works or specialized. Kindly mute the person speaking. Yeah, so you wanted to know why we do not include specialized work. I want to confirm this is included both ways. One, in our registration portal, we have 5 classes of works for information. One is civil engineering works, which is divided both into roadworks and waterworks. Then we have building works, which, as you know, has got all varieties of construction of buildings. Then we have mechanical works, and mechanical works also has got several categories, including even borehole drilling, including lift installations, and so on and so forth. And then we have the electrical works. For information, electrical works is also very wide and could also be from domestic electrical installations, including the wiring in the building, to major and heavy infrastructure projects like high voltage projects, what we call the transmission line projects, and even the substations, which include both mechanical and electrical, and even the power generating stations. So in that regard, those categorization of classes are actually recognized. In terms of how or why we don't include the site signboard, Bonajuma, I want to confirm that if you look at the site signboard that is properly done and complete, all this category of parties to the project are normally included. You would see the main contractor. From the contractor's perspective, you see the main contractor and the subcontractors clearly indicated there. And you'll ordinarily see on a big project, a minimum of 3 subcontractors. You'll see a subcontractor for electrical works, a subcontractor for mechanical works, which will be divided either into plumbing or whatever kind of mechanical work is happening there. And you'll also see, if it is a big project, other subcontractors who are specific to those particular scope, like even sometimes structured cabling, sometimes even, which one have I left? CCTV, not the specialized kind of works, and so on and so forth. So that regard, the site signboard captures the extent of what work is going on that site. So when it is missing, it means maybe it is not part of the component. But ordinarily, if it is part of the component, then it should be in the site signboard, because we would want that site signboard is the first step to indicating the project's compliance status. Hiding anything, then show it on the site signboard. So and that's why we insist that site signboard must be in place and must be displayed conspicuously in a place where we can easily see as our officers go around those sites. In terms of approval documentation, whether we need to include the M&D drawings, I think I want to, including the chart that I'm seeing within the charts, various charts, and IEK, I hope, will share these charts with us. You are saving them. So they'll inform part of today's conversation. We'll have them as recorded as part of improving our systems. So in terms of whether we need to include the M&D drawings, which is normally a subset or a sub-component of the main works, it's an important item, improvement to the quality assurance. So that one we can look at going forward. The most interesting question is on waiving of fees as proposed, that because they are also regulated, they have been regulated by others, like you've mentioned. I know for electrical okay, we call them contractors. And on our website, we don't find subcontractors. Out there, because of the nature of contracting, they may be subs to others. And as we call them contractors, and because they are specialized in nature, remember, electrical is something that is very sensitive. I'm not saying structural is not, or civil, but electrical requires another secondary or primary eye, whatever you want to look at it, or tertiary eye, which has looked at it. So for instance, the IPRA, which used to be, what was IPRA before? The ERC, or for telecommunication. For telecommunication contractors, the Communications Authority, we use them as a gateway to give you clearance, so that by the time they come to NC as a regulator, you know we've been given that pass. And that is important for us. So we jointly regulate you. Whether you need to be, fee need to be waived, it's something that is interesting. And maybe we need to sit as regulators and discuss as an item of discussion raised by the concerned professionals. Because I know some of you sitting in this forum for this particular day, you are in this place, and that's why you're asking that. Some of you are engineers, but also you've also in your own other business, you're also working as a contractor, which is what is propelling you in terms of business. So it's an important question you've asked, but we'll need to engage in that regard. But regulation is about treatment with all fairness and equity. So if a builder's works contractor is and category 1 for that matter is paying X amount of money, the question will be, why is the electrical contractor paying less for the same category? I know you now know where my answer lies. Then the last one is local content, which is also a good question. Now, let me address this question in 2 ways. One, the National Construction Authority Act already has given us a legal framework that provides for any foreign contractor undertaking a project in this country must bring on board a local contractor, or I'm talking about contractors. I know EBK also has something for the professionals. So this particular provision allows minimum 30% of a subcontracting or a joint ventureship with a local contractor. And that is the requirement before we register any foreign contractor. We are enforcing this. The only challenge I want to say, my professional colleagues, is this. You know, sometimes we just sell our papers. A foreign contractor would come to you and ask for partnerships for the sake of the 30%, but it ends at paperwork. Now, when you disagree as you move forward, now you come to NCA and say your papers were obtained and procedurally. That is something that I think I want to encourage all of us to ensure that we do the right thing all times at the right time. And this way, you'll be able to grow as a professional. We'll be able to grow our local capacity, because our interest is, at the end of that project being undertaken by a foreign contractor, the local contractor has benefited to the extent that a similar project happening in future, even to the extent of 30% similar scope, can be done by that local contractor as the main contractor, and he can also subcontract to other small contractors within the country. That's our aim. So this is an area that we are very keen. The second item in terms of that local content is with regard to, what do you call them? The skills transfer, which we also enforce as per the Act, where as a foreign contractor, you need to demonstrate the skills that you'll transfer to the locals or local artisans by the end of that particular project. And these are documented, and at the end of the project needs to have been transferred to a particular skill set, and even including technology transfer. Engineer Godfrey, I think those were the questions in that particular section. Thank you.
Sorry, I think I was muted. Thank you, Engineer. And I want to move on to the next set of questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Now, there's a question or comment here. Maybe this one you will just give your comment by our Honorary Secretary, Engineer Margaret Ogai. She's also in the house. She has commended the NCA for the OPRS, but she feels focus is more on professionals rather than the engineering practice. I think, Engineer, you will comment on that, on the framework you have in place, so that it will focus more on maybe on the engineering practice than the professional. The next question is from Morgan Wanyonyi. I think the question is focused on the recent letters. How do you determine the maximum number of projects an engineer should be responsible for? And there was a question that was related to that, NCA should probably practice some courtesy of getting in touch with engineers first before debarring them from undertaking such projects. Then there's also another one from Roy Okoth. He's asking, I think he's not seeing the role of technologists and technicians on the presentation you made. So he's asking to see what is the role of technologists and technicians in your presentation. Then we have a question from Mike Nderitu, or an observation. He's saying probably NCA is not keen on residential projects and public projects. So kindly, Engineer, you could comment on those. Welcome. Thank you, Engineer.
Thank you, Godfrey. I think the first question by Engineer Margaret is on, based on our presentation and maybe having interacted with the OPRS, the online project decision system, there is it's like a concern that our focus is more on the professionals than the practice itself. And I want to say here categorically that actually we've started engaging with the EBK and the other sister regulator, Borax, because this is a conversation we started, and I know we'll get to a point where we will hit the road. And our main approach or objective will be, how do we move together as an industry so that when there's an issue about a professional, what the mandate the mandate of EBK as per the law and the mandate of Borax as per the law, what do we need to do together, and of course the mandate of NCA, to ensure that the right thing is done. So I think that particular item will be addressed through a coordinated and collaborative approach, which I think is the direction we are taking to be able to develop the practice. And some very good important point was raised at the opening remarks. I think it was by the president of IEK, Engineer Matalanga, with regard to even the PDUs, the professional development points. And on the side of NCA, it's the same thing, but we call it CPDs. That is the continuous professional development for contractors. And a contractor, as a person, could be an engineer, an architect, or a quantity surveyor. So how do we ensure that that collaboration happens in a way that a training conducted, conducted by NCA, and a training conducted by EBK, or the professional body, IEK, or any other professional body for that matter, is recognized across board, and we're able to, because it's the same brain you're actually developing in terms of its knowledge base. It doesn't matter which source of information where it's coming from. So with that regard, I think that will come to pass, and it will be a benefit to all of us as the industry practitioners. The other issue is about how do we determine number of projects to lead to development of professional, because it was not just for the engineers. It was, I said, it was architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, and contractors who are actually affected in this regard. For engineers, by the way, there were 49 whom we communicated to. That's the entire list. Those who had 30 projects plus and above. So what was the basis of the 30? How did we determine that? It was based on, as I said, the previous trend of how projects were happening, and the investigations that were being carried by the directors, the board of the National Construction Authority as mandated by the Act, actually led to the point that any professional having 30 projects plus would start having challenges of delivery in terms of capacity and so on and so forth. But I say this with a lot of caution, because I know you could be having 30 projects, but you are a multiple of professionals within that one firm. So what is needed is just to come back to NCA and of course communicate to the regulator so that this can be assessed and we move on. It's not a punishment, as I said. All we need is to have the conversation. And I believe at the end of this conversation today, for those who are sitting here and are affected in this regard, if you're among one of those 49, please, I hope you're going to communicate as per the letters we had issued, because I know that's why these questions are coming up. And I also want to say that you may have been inadvertently selected for that project and you don't know about it. Also communicate as such so that it can be clarified as far as we are concerned. A good question on the role of technicians, technologists and technicians under the NCA registration portal. Let me confirm that technologists and technicians hold a critical key for the implementation of construction projects in this country. Just like in other sectors, like in the health sector, you'll find, after the doctors, you'll find nurses. In the manufacturing sector, you'll find those guys who operate machines and so on and so forth. All I want to say here, they are not in the registration portal, but they are part and parcel of the contractors team during project implementation. So when we come to do quality assurance during our routine inspections on ongoing construction project, one of the things we normally look out for is whether that particular contractor have in their establishment and or of course in the site at the time of the visit, whether they have a qualified construction site supervisor who will fall into the category of a technician or a technologist, and they also have a skilled construction worker who will fall in the category of a qualified artisan. And in that regard, they are actually considered at the time of project implementation. Maybe at the point of registration, what is important is that we have a contractor who is accepting as part of that project and whose employment this particular category of personnel will fall under. The other last question was, we are not keen on what? On
residential and public projects.
Maybe okay. This because we oversight. We oversee all kind of projects, whether they are public or private, or whether they are residential, whatever, or commercial, or whether they are roads or water or dams or whatever it is. So this particular, unless the particular question has got a project in a particular issue in mind, because I am aware that even I can give examples of projects that are registered as NCA on that are residential in nature, including multiple dwelling units, single dwelling units, even a domestic house. Sometimes people call us that I thought I was just building my house at home, home meaning away from Nairobi in the countryside. And sometimes our officers visit there and they're like, you know, so our concern is, our priority is to ensure your safety, whether you're doing it in the countryside or in the capital, whichever it is. So in that regard, we look at all projects, unless he has a particular one, which he needs to be brought as far as a red flag, so that we can follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. I think we are headed to the tail end of the questions. This will be the last set of questions, and they are more of your opinions on various issues. We have Emmanuel Korir is inquiring, how does one communicate when they have stalled projects that have stalled under their registration? And then Maurice Kagwi is also asking your opinion on the issue of corruption, especially with within your organization. How do you address this? And then somebody else has, Maurice still has asked, what is the status of the proposed billing code? When are we likely to see it? And then there was one from Timothy Musiomi who asked about, is there a way you can make the structural audit reports public, especially for buildings that have collapsed? I think those are the final questions, Engineer. Once we tackle those, then we can proceed.
Thank you very much. And I also want to continue thanking the professional colleagues. Today, I always say that when you have an opportunity to make a presentation and be engaged on questions, it also informs what we need to do differently and areas of improvement. We thrive on what, for those who have heard of Kaizen model, continuous improvement. So the question on stalled projects and how the concerned party can be able to communicate is what I try to address in the areas of improvement in terms of system interactability. We want to enhance the system interaction so that the engineer or any other professional can be able to communicate when a project has stalled. And I want to even extend this further. Sometimes it's not even a project stalling. I'm aware, and we've received sometimes complaints where a professional has been aggrieved by the party that employed them to undertake the works, and they have parted ways. But us, in our database, we still know that that particular engineer or architect or quantity surveyor or contractor is still on that site. But when things go haywire is when now we are realizing, hey, these people are not even part of this project. They actually disembarked some times back. So in the improvement proposal for the system upgrade, it will include interaction where a professional can go in there, in their corner, and raise an issue and attach, because it will not just be a matter of, you cannot just come and say that we have disagreed with this guy and I'm quitting, or this project has stalled. There must be some evidence that you must attach as proof of documents, which will also be, the system will allow that to be inputted so that it's not one-sided, because some of these things are normally very contractual and you don't want to take action that is one-sided. It must be, as a regulator, it must be fair and exercise equity across board. So with that regard, the issue of communication and feedback will be included. So just stay put. And when this happens, I think we'll sensitize us accordingly, and also appreciate this very good forum where, again, in future, we can keep engaging and highlight some of the improvements you have done, and even do a demo to address the same. The issue of corruption is something that has been around this part of the world for some time. But as National Construction Authority, I want to say that we take issues with corruption seriously. And one of the things I want us to appreciate is that by going online, it was one of the ways of eliminating corruption through the red tape. Why do I say so? I say so because I do not need to know who is applying on the other side. All I need to receive is the documents and process them and go to the end. And remember, and I clarify this with a lot of certainty, project registration is free of charge for those who may not be aware. From the time the developer is applying for registration to the time we process the compliance certificate, which is what we give as the end product, there is no fee required. So all I want to urge is that if there's any of you or any other your clients that has faced any of this, please, we have a hotline number. You can also use our info email address or the email address at ed@nca.go.ke. For that particular information, it will come to us in confidence and we'll take appropriate action, because corruption is punishable by law under the EACC Act. And we are all aware about that. And we must take decisive action whenever those cases occur. So please, I would like specific details where corruption is involved, and please communicate to us and you'll be able to take appropriate action. But from where we sit, we preach and drink water. We don't preach water and drink wine. Status of proposed building code, a very good question. It was also raised at the remarks by the IK president. Let me say three things. One, National Construction Authority Act has gone certain amendments. The last amendment was under the Business Amendment Act 2020, which came around into effect in March, and it gave us additional mandates. One was development and enforcement of the building code. You are aware, for those who have interacted with the old building code, 1968, that since 1968, we've not had any other building code apart from that. But during the repeal of the Local Government Authorities Act, after the new constitution was promulgated, you are aware that this particular building code is still there, but the law that it was anchored in was repealed. So in a nutshell, NCA got some mandate to develop and enforce the building code. So we've started the journey of developing a new building code. This journey started last year. Okay, it's a journey that has been there for the last 16 years. But when the proposal to amend the NCA Act to give it powers to develop and enforce the building code started, we also started running with it around end of last year. And as we speak now, this particular document has gone through various motions, including public participation. I want to confirm that some of the professionals sitting or attending this forum or participating interacted with that document in various stages. And we had the last public participation in December of last year, 19th of December to be exact. And after that, that document, the comments were incorporated, and the document currently is at the Office of the Attorney General for final review. And after the review is complete, it will be published. What is the word? It will be published. And after it's been published, it will be taken through another motion of public participation across the country. And the views and comments received will be incorporated and it will be taken to the floor of Parliament. And once approved, it will become a legal document. and under the NCA Act. So that will be a document, it will be called National Building Regulations. When are we expecting this to happen? We're estimating that if all goes well, despite Corona here with us, because it's going to affect how we're going to conduct the public participation in terms of its effectiveness and efficiency. If all goes well, we are looking at between March to June 2021 to have this document with us. This will be a game changer for the industry. The document has moved away. The fundamental shift from the old code and this code is based on performance. You as professionals, I know you understand what I mean. The other one was more prescriptive. I'll give you a very good example where it says, if you're doing a wall, masonry wall, it must be made of Nairobi bluestone. And if you're building in Garissa, where do you get by Nairobi bluestone? This one is more performance-based. It says what the wall should do rather than what the wall should be made of. And that way, I think we'll have progressed and should even give opportunity for the use of indigenous materials or various materials that have been innovated or discovered from time to time. The other thing that was amended in the Act, as I said, there were three things, was mandatory inspections. Previously, under Section 23 of the Act, what was required is just to carry out the quality assurance. But remember now, mandatory inspection, inspections are now mandatory, and it's both ways, meaning that as a developer, you must ensure that your construction is inspected from time to time. And as NCA, we also have to ensure that we carry out those inspections. And the last thing, and the key one for that matter, is the provision for penalties. Previously, as we've done before, we were issuing what we call suspension notices. When we come to a construction project and we find something is not compliant with the provisions of the law, we could just issue a suspension notice, just as we are doing it today. But now, if you fail to observe that suspension notice that has been duly issued, you are liable to a penalty, either a jail term of not more than 3 years, or a fine of not more than 1 million, or both. So that's how the Act has been amended to add those legal provisions. Lastly,
I think we've addressed most of them.
Okay, thank you. I think that
yes, go on.
That one is there was a question, I can't get it right. It was the last question.
I think, Engineer, you've addressed. I think you've addressed most of them. Unless there is anything you saw particularly from the charts, because I know you can see them and you wanted to, maybe you wanted to address it. Engineer?
I think maybe from where I sit, let me take this opportunity to first of all appreciate the fact that IEK saw it upon that it was very important to come up with such kind of an interactive session. But the greatest benefit from where I sit that we've really received is the comments, because I can assure you these comments will go a long way in improving the systems that we are coming up with. And at the end of the day, you and me as the industry practitioners will benefit a great deal. But my appeal to you is that whenever you come across a project and you are partnering with a foreign contractor, please play your role. Play your role. Don't just be a paper tiger. Don't just give your papers for process of compliance for that particular foreign contractor comply, but ensure you're also part of that process. And I want to encourage us to be reporting on matters that you feel are not being done in a proper manner, and appropriate action will be taken. You are our ambassadors out there. And as ambassadors, we expect you to be informing us from time to time where things are happening in the right way, and even mostly where things are not happening the right way, and even where things are happening the right way. So with that, I think I want to appreciate And thank you very much for listening to me. And it's been quite a good session for us as a NCA, as National Construction Authority. And I look forward for future engagements like this one that can even improve how we work together as industry practitioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. I think mine will be just to maybe just point out areas where I saw engineers are mostly concerned. Things like mechanical and electrical engineering drawings, they must be considered for approval. The other one is engineers are worried, contractors are using their papers without their knowledge. Look into it that your team can sort that out properly. And the integration of the portal with other agencies, such as the regulators, counties, and people like NEMA and WARMA. Otherwise, I thank you very much for that great presentation. And we will be able to share these questions on the chat with your team so that you can continue using them as we build our country. And let me now take this opportunity and hand over to Engineer Shana Kiteme, who was moderating the whole session. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Godfrey Marambe. And thank you very much, Engineer Maurice Akech. That was a very useful presentation. I want to, in the interest of time, welcome Engineer Grace Kagondu, who is going to give us a way forward. Welcome, Engineer.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Sharma, for moderating. Thank you very much for all the presenters for what we have had so far. It has been a very insightful session, and I'm sure most of the speakers are following very keenly. So I'll just try to go through the way forward very, very quickly, and then we can be able to wrap up in time. Number one, we heard from NCA that NCA is very keen to fulfill the mandate of regulating the construction sector so as to ensure safer, quality, and healthy construction practices. And they need the cooperation of all the professionals involved. I think we have heard you, Engineer Akech, and we are ready to work with you as you have requested. We are going to cooperate with you because I think a healthy sector is good for the professionals, just as it is for NCA. The other point you have raised is that NCA is working to improve further this platform, for instance, on faster resolution of issues, and also a more interactive platform for both consultants and clients, so that concerns can be put forward and responded to very objectively and efficiently. And we are very happy to hear that. And we do hope that you will put attention to that so that it is it's actually achieved. On the key concern of engineers, the issue of debarment, Engineer Akech has clarified that the main objective actually is to facilitate discussion between NCA and so as to get NCA and the professionals, so as to ascertain that the firm or the consultant has the capacity to handle the projects under their name and not really to punish the consultant. So I think maybe that's with that kind of attitude, we are very assured that we are not punishing our sector, we are not punishing, not making profession very hard to practice, they're not putting bottlenecks on our path. And we are very happy with that. And if it is a matter of facilitating discussion, we are welcome for that. And certainly, we wouldn't want firms that cannot handle projects, because that is also going to spoil the name of the professionals. On the very important proposal of having all agencies in the construction sector that have an approving role, for example, NCA, NEMA, and so on, having them all under one roof or being effectively integrated. We are happy to hear that that is in the work and it is progressing well, because that is also a way of improving the doing business index in Kenya, and it's also improving efficiencies. On the issue of system interferences by masqueraders, that is a very big risk, and we have heard from you that it's a normal risk on IT-based platforms, but you as NCA have upped your game to deal with this menace, and the matter is now under control, or it is, or your teams are working very closely on this issue. Yeah, that was a very good assurance for the members. We talked about other professional services that sometimes not captured, the mechanical and electrical, for example, mechanical electrical engineering services. You have assured us that they are also recognized, and although they are not, and if they're not captured, it's because they're not involved in that particular project. In most cases, they're normally captured on the sideboard, hence why the NCA insists on a sideboard, on a site signboard, being mandatory for all the projects. In that regard, mechanical and engineering drawings, you have assured us they will be included going forward as part of the submissions in the NCA online registration system, and we look forward to that being actualized. On the issue of local content, NCA has stated that they do provide that contractors must bring on board a local contractor, a minimum of 30% of subcontracting or joint venture contracts with a foreign contractor. However, they have pointed out that sometimes members do not follow the proper process, and we are encouraging our members to cooperate and ensure that they follow the proper process is done, so as to ensure that this is effective, the local content is actually achieved, and we are not actually frustrating ourselves or undermining that particular provision. Lastly, I think one of the things we captured is the issue of the building code. Our NCA engineer Morris has assured us that that is progressing well and will be available for adoption by the sector within the first quarter of next year, if I heard you right, engineer. I heard you mention March, did I hear right?
Yes, Engineer Grace. Yes, I said between March to June of 2021.
2021, correct.
Yes.
So we are happy to hear that it's progressing well. Many of us, myself included, and many others who are on this platform have been following keenly on this building code. We've been talking about it for almost the last 10, I don't know how many years. And we are very excited that it is actually seeing the light of the day is coming soon. And we wish you well in that particular undertaking. Members, I think that is what I captured as the way forward matters. Probably the other issues that were also captured. Oh yes, there's one more issue, the role of technicians and technologists. NCA has assured us again that they are recognized as playing a very critical role in the sector, especially as part of the contractors team. And NCA is interested that they should be qualified for their roles within the contractors establishment, and we fully support that, because when you don't have qualified technicians and technologists in the contractors team, the quality, the supervision work for the professionals becomes very difficult, and in most cases, it ends up being a lot of, I mean, you end up being having to over-supervise the project, which is not efficient, and the quality of the work is compromised. So we're happy to hear that you're also insisting that the contractors establishment should have qualified personnel. And with that, thank you very much, moderator, for that opportunity. I think I've tried to capture all the important aspects of the way forward, and we do wish NCA all the best in making sure that that you do manage to achieve that, and you can rest assured that as professionals, we shall support you in the undertaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Kagondu, for that way forward. We have noted that we have members from AAK, IQSK, and other organizations that have attended the webinar, and we thank you for attending. That shows kind of synergy that we need for the industry. And now I want to invite Engineer Margaret Ogai, our Home Secretary, to give us a closing remarks and vote of thanks, and she'll also facilitate the benediction. Thank you very much, Engineer. Welcome, Home Sec.
Thank you, Engineer Sharma. And I would like, mine is very simple. I've been asked to just give a vote of thanks for this meeting. I think indeed we are very happy as IEK. We have had a very successful meeting. We have had very good engagements, and we want to thank first all our participants who've been with us. At one point we were over 287. I think that's the level of engagement that can move this country. I always say when you see engineers together, you can only expect big things. And that, I think, is a good sign for our country and the kind of commitment that we have to making a difference to ordinary Kenyans' lives. I even noted that we had members who were tuned in from out of the country, I believe. And I think it just shows we're doing very well. We have very many eminent engineers with us on the forum. I think I'm very happy to have seen, and I think he's still here with us, Honorable Rue Muriuki. We appreciate so much. You know, I always get pleasure when you give 1 or 2 statements. So I'll give you 1 or 2 seconds later to say one thing for us, because it's always very incisive, and we learn so much from you. Having been at Bunge, we really need to also learn how to present ourselves. So I'll give you 2 seconds with Engineer Sharma's permission, but just let me just finish the appreciations. NCA, I think we appreciate what you're doing, the role you're playing in the country, and that you are able to come and present to us such a wonderful presentation. I think we have all learned so much, and we are going to work with you, as Engineer Grace has also said. We are going to collaborate and cooperate with you to ensure that we improve the regulation for the industry. Of course, we have with us very many other collaborating partners. We've been told the architects are here. We have the quantity surveyors, of course, the engineers. We have, and I think ASEC, I saw Engineer Dunga is here with us and his team. We appreciate. We also have EBK. Yes, we were, I think, graced by the occasion to have. We had the vice Engineer Julia from EBK. We really thank you for coming. So it's been very collaborative, very informative. I do not want to take long. Maybe what I could say, finally, Welfare Committee from IEK, kudos. This was extremely well run, very relevant for our times, and we appreciate so much. So now, because there are 2 things I want to do. I would want to call Engineer Karue, Prof, Honorable. You will give us 1 statement, then I'll invite Engineer Jane to give us. Engineer Jane Mutulili will lead us in the final prayer. I thank you so much. I think it's always an honor to be with all of us. It's been good. So, Honorable Karue.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate giving me a moment or 2 to say something. I think my substantive remark is that, like everyone else, I think we are very delighted to have this seminar. I think now, because it's on the website, we say webinar, but it's very good. On the other side of the presentation, I would like to also point out, as you are aware, I've been a senator looking after counties. And much as I'm aware, NCA are aware, but there is a very, very big challenge. When we had the local authorities, we also had the municipal authorities, most of them with a municipal engineer and all that. Now that is very, very diluted. I note that in the presentation, and more so with the reaction from the members, the need to have engineers in the counties. That is certainly not happening. And I believe NCA is probably one of the bodies which should step in to ensure that happens. Because I've had the occasion to deal with the project, either officially or in my other public capacity, where there isn't any of the professionals we are talking about on board, but still the project goes on. So with those few remarks, let me congratulate once more the organizers, and we will hope to have more like this. Asante sana.
Thank you. That was very, very incisive, and I think we all, Nyakech, thank you. I'm sure you've had, and all of us. So, Jane? Sorry, Engineer Jane Mutulili.
Yes, thank you so much. Like everybody else, thank you so much, Edie, and thank you everybody for attending. That event for me was very informative. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. God our Father, we want to come before you this evening. We want to thank you for the graces you've given us. We want to thank you for this time that we've had to interact with one another between NCA and IEK and all other members of the build industry. There are many things that we've learned. There are many things that we've also internalized. We want to thank you for giving us a chance to be here and for giving us a chance to be part of that industry.
whatever it is we do, God our Father, we want to ask that you allow us to do it for the good of our fellow men and women, and also for the praise of your holy name. Thank you, Father. As we part ways, we want to ask you to be with us, guide us through in all that we are going to do. And we ask all this through Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen. Amen. The Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. Unmute mtuambie bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, President.
A photograph.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Publicity to take a photo.
Bye-bye.
And good weekend, everybody.
Good weekend to everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Christine, and hi.
Hi.
Bye.
Thank you, Engineer
Bye-bye.
Morris, for the good work you're
Bye-bye.
doing.
Bye.
Bye.
And Edie, hi.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Goodbye.
And thanks to the Welfare Committee.
Thank you to
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Mr. President, you're good?
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
You may
Thank
leave
you.
at your own pleasure.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everyone here. NCA, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.